Hey, welcome my friends. Hello, hello. Here we are. It is, I have no idea what the date is. It's the 24th of March, 2021. It's 2021. It's 25th of March. It's Chat with Matt. Here I am. I'm in Mapua, which is down near Motueka, back towards Nelson. I'm just trying to get my computer open. I am late for Chat with Matt. Trying to do a host of things at once. I've got to get on a plane soon, and I've got to find Facebook here. And I know I've got some questions written in ahead of time because I did have a look at that before I jumped through the shower. We're on our way back. Hey Jane, hey Debbie, happy Wednesday. I missed someone else. Hey Jenny. Oh, now I've done it. Try not to touch the screen, Matthew. Yeah, so I've got a host of questions written in. I'm going to start with Debbie's question because Debbie's here and Debbie asked the question, and then I've got a few questions that I'll move through quickly and then another good one too. So I'm just trying to get to the right place here so I can see those said questions. Why is it saying I only have 2 comments when I know I have more than that because I saw them this morning? There we go, 8 comments. I am going to be live here, Jen. But I was just a bit slow getting on. Eight comments. Show them to me, please. Facebook's being a bit of a pain. Just doing a refresh. I'm going to get into it in a minute. Promise. Right. See 6 more comments. Here we go. Debbie. Welcome. Hey, Sister Christina. Hey, Lorraine. I will answer your question too, Lorraine. I know it's down the end there. It's a good one too. So here we go. And I'm happy to dance into whatever comes up through the screen if I can manage. Obviously, I'm in a bit of a state. I'm integrating after hosting a successful retreat, which is always an interesting time for me. A lot of energy still shifting, even though everyone's gone home now. It's like in the relaxation that happens when the retreat closes and everyone leaves, then a lot of stuff keeps processing through, a lot of stuff that I've been, helping to facilitate energetically, not so much consciously, and it sort of gets stored because a lot of my conscious effort is in the external, managing people and managing the relationship face to face while we're there. And once they go, it's like, right, now we can get through all this stuff that you it's like last night I was out to it for like 11 hours, just dead to the world. So a little bit late getting into it this morning, but here we are, and we're going for it. So Sister Debbie asked, could you please speak to being okay about doing what you have to do even when you don't really want to, until you can do what you really would like to do? So there's a couple of layers to this, of course. First of all, it's great to be okay about having to do whatever you need to do. So we're definitely working with that intention. The question is the question to dig a little bit deeper into, Debbie and everyone else, is even when you really don't want to, what aspect of you is not wanting to do it and why? Right, that's the kicker there. Hey, Sister Jane, is to dig a little deeper into where the resistance is. Because if you're really going against what your soul desires, you're probably going to struggle a lot to gain benefit from that perceived sacrifice. If you're just going against a dislike and it's really just an egoic dislike, if you can manage your expectations around that, if you can change your perspective around that, if you can see that doing what you're doing, even though you have an egoic or a personality distaste to what you're being asked to do for whatever reason, if you can manage that and change the perspective to see that what you are doing is actually leading to your greater outcome, if you can not so much put your happiness in the future, because that never works, right? If you can't attain, if what you're doing is really so distasteful for you that you can't find happiness doing it now, then you're better off not doing it, honestly, because that level of sacrifice and that level of pushing forward into the future thinking this sacrifice is worth it because then it will allow me to survive until I get the opportunity to do, that ends up snowballing and creating more and more stress and contraction in the field than is worth, right? And I know there's a perception that you need to do something in order to survive or thrive, right? Oh, I need a job, any job, that'll have to do. And I'm not saying that that's, not the case, but it never really is the case in New Zealand. There's always a way around having to get a job if the job is really distasteful. I presume you're talking about jobs, Deb, as I know you a little bit more. I have a little bit of background history there. The point is if you can see a pathway that this particular job or thing is going to lead you into getting a step in the doorway to moving towards doing something that is more aligned with your heart and does feel more purposeful, then go for it. But if you can't and you feel that you really are sacrificing yourself just in order to get some money and think that you'll get ahead and then you'll be able to step forward, that tends to be such a sticky situation. I know I was in it, working my day job, thinking that once I had enough money, then I would be able to launch my healing business, right? It just never happens. You just get on this treadmill of just grinding along, trying to get enough money. And every time I even got close to somewhere where I thought I was comfortable enough to even contemplate stepping into making a transition from having to do a day job into doing what I love, something would come along and suck that money away. It was amazing, right? Cars would break down, things would happen, unexpected expenses in some way or another, because basically that whole mentality was protecting me from doing something that I was scared of doing, which was taking the leap and launching into something that I really loved doing. So it's amazing the way that we can orchestrate energetically, these coping mechanisms, distractions. What's the other thing we call it? Like self-sabotage, right? So it's a tricky ground to walk, Deb. It's great to find the okayness about doing what you have to do if it really is what you have to do, right? If you really feel that in your heart this is the right path forward, even though I have some emotional resistance to it, some egoic resistance to it, then it's a matter of meditating on the why behind why you are choosing to do it, and in a positive light, not in a fear-based survival light, because it comes down to, if we're acting from love, self-love especially, then it's all going to go well. If we're acting from fear, lack mentality, then generally not. It's not going to go so well. It's going to entrap us in a hamster wheel type experience that leads to deeper frustration, in which case we then have another opportunity to break out of the cycle. So you've taken great measures to break out of the cycle. I know you have found a level of freedom and have a depth of confidence in your ability to survive and the freedom that you've attained. So I would encourage you not to fall back into desperation, lack mentality, but at the same time, I also encourage you to perhaps soften the edge of the dream occupation and allow yourself to see what is leading you forward towards your best outcomes, and be willing to make some levels of egoic personality sacrifice in order to get there. So it's a delicate balance, and I can't really tell you what's right or wrong here, because there is no real right and wrong. But as long as you're acting from love, you're going to do well. And if you start finding yourself in that fear-based lack mentality and the desperation mentality, then generally it's going to snowball in the wrong direction. So hopefully that helps for you and everyone else. Okay, so I've got a host of questions here from Dharma Devi. I'm going to flow through these relatively quickly, although I could speak to each one of these questions for half an hour on their own, right? Which I'm not going to do, because I only have about 20 minutes left of this live stream to start with. And there's another question from Lorraine. which I'm going to get to as well. So I'll move through these relatively quickly, but I am happy to come back to them at some other time, like next week or the week after or whatever. So if any of you find interest in what Dharma do, and I'll read them out and I'll answer them rather quickly. But if any of you are intrigued about this line of any of those questions, because they're quite diverse actually, then I'm happy, write something in next week when I put the notification up. I tend to put a notification up about 12 hours or thereabouts, between 12 and 10 hours before these live streams every week, which gives people an opportunity to pre-ask questions. I am also happy to ask a question from the screen, although I don't always get to them, and sometimes I don't even see them, to be honest. Sometimes I'm scrolling back through the comments after I've finished and go, oh, I didn't see that. And I don't even know if Facebook always shows it, to be completely honest. Don't know how the algorithm works. But anyway, so Dharma Devi said, how do I know I'm following my highest divine path in my life and not following a distraction? I'm not sure there's a difference. I know this is probably not the question you wanted. Highest divine path is such a lofty concept, right? It kind of comes with the connotation that it's been set in stone by God, and it's not the truth, right? I don't believe there's a judgmental God or even a logical God that is planning out the way we're supposed to progress. Our higher self, of course, in my opinion, has some desires to achieve in this particular lifetime, but it's not so contracted around it. In my opinion, the purpose of life is to experience life here in physicality. We are a divine, magnificent spiritual being coming in and limiting ourselves into a physicality to have experiences that help to develop or expand our wisdom as aspects of the divine, right? We're a unique aspect of the divine, separated out, having an illusory experience as a mortal being, to have an experience that helps to deepen our understanding of the rich tapestry of existence. So distractions are just as valid as purposeful activity in some way, in that it does lead to more wisdom growing. So, but to answer your question a little bit more specifically, when it feels really joyful in your heart and you find a deep desire to continue, even though the surface might not be as comfortable as you would like, when you find a joy in stepping through the resistance to doing things, you know you're on what more of a divine path. You know that your soul is behind you. You know it's not just an egoic desire, because the ego will soon turn off something if it's not working out to suit the ego's likes and dislikes, right? So when we follow distractions, we tend to be a little bit more come and go. When we're following a path that's more in alignment with our soul or our higher self's desire, we have a little bit more tenacity and a willingness to step through some discomfort. So there's a good sign right there. So it is always a battle when you're following more of your soul desire or higher self desire, more of your higher calling, if you like, without putting that chiseled in stone, then your ego will tend to resist you more than actually help you. So following distractions tends to be easier from an egoic point of view, right? You tend to be a bit more deluded in it. You tend to be looking for the peaches and the cream. And when you're following your real soul desire, you've got a deeper commitment to stepping through whatever it takes to achieve said outcome, because it feels really important at a deep level, not just to achieve some great congratulations or appreciation from others, but really because it makes you feel deeply inside a much deeper satisfaction, and even beyond what the word satisfaction means, a deep joy that's hard to describe, right? And you're willing to go through quite a bit of discomfort to get there. And you might even think you're going mad, right? It's quite common. I know I do quite often think, why the frig am I trying? Why the frig am I keep showing up to this when clearly it seems that the universe is against me? The universe isn't against me. It's my own inner, self-sabotage and basically the purification process of deeply held beliefs that have been programmed in other times coming up. Basically, I'm pushing against my own resistance and it's uncomfortable. That's a great indication that you're on a path that is much more divinely orchestrated, if you like. Hopefully that answered that. What's the easiest way to navigate darkness upon the planet? The easiest way to navigate darkness upon the planet is to stop making it wrong. Okay? To stop thinking that you're supposed to fight darkness, to stop thinking that darkness is trying to stop you as a being of light. Darkness is playing its game just as you are playing your game. Dark and light are just different colored chess pieces on the board. You don't need to make them wrong. They are not anti-God. They are just beings who are aligned with the darkness. Yeah, committing to our, Christina just wrote in, committing to our own journey I have found to be so important. But the point is, Christina, not to make it too important or you contract in stress around it. And that's where a lot of people fall over. And a lot of people get very hung up on trying to work out if they're on their divine path or not, right? And that doubting tends to keep them what we call stuck, right? Oscillating, vacillating between, they don't want it, they're not sure if they should commit to this path because they're not sure it's the right path. And what I would like to tell everyone is just forget about the right path. There is no wrong path, so you don't have to worry about the right path. And just to keep trying things, just to keep moving forward, just to keep choosing to step into any opportunity that comes your way from a place of passion, and just see how committed you are. Because commitment is not something you mentalize or orchestrate with your mind, right? A lot of people think that commitment is some sort of mental power. It's not. Commitment comes from your heart. Commitment is a deep devotion or dedication to yourself. That's where true commitment comes, because mental commitment is easily knocked over by the winds of doubt, right? You easily drop those mental commitments when you don't have the power of your soul behind them. So don't try too hard to get committed, but rather allow your commitment to naturally arise when you give yourself, when you choose to just align with love more often in the light that you are. Sheena wrote, the explanation you have given helps me understand how I am working towards a goal I have. Understanding ego and divine inspiration is something I've struggled with. Yeah, and it's an ongoing lesson for all of us, Sheena. I struggle with, working out, is this my ego, is this not? And sometimes it really, don't get too caught up in trying to work it out, but always be curious. Always just be curious, right? I want to say it again. It's not so important. This life is not so important. The more that you can relax, the easier it gets, right? The easier it gets to follow your divine path, the more that you relax and you don't make it so important that you do. The easier it is to work with darkness is the more that you relax and don't make them somehow some important fight. As a being of light, you have to keep fighting the darkness down, because that just creates stress and contraction. And basically that's what darkness feeds off. So the more that we get stressed, the more easy it is that fear can work against us and darkness will keep having its way over you. The more that you relax around darkness, right, the more that you can just basically flow through working alongside darkness. They're doing their thing, we're doing our thing. The less that you worry about them, the less power they have over you, the less influence they have over you, and that's all that's important. All that's important is that you really gain a level of sovereignty as an aspect of the divine, having an experience here on this planet. That's pretty much key. That's pretty much key. So I'm going to keep going through these because I want to get through them. So the next question from Dharma Devi was, I know we have to walk our own path for ascension, but once we ascend, do we just leave those behind to figure it out? Why ascend? Hang on, there's a C more there. Why ascend? What are the benefits to humanity if I ascend? Right, to start with Dharma Devi, there's no completion to ascension. So this idea that somehow you've ascended and you're complete with it is deluded and this is my opinion, of course. In my opinion, and have I missed something that came up as I was reading that out? No. Awesome. So there's no completion to ascension. And so it's not that I will have ascended and therefore I'm complete and I've disappeared back into God forever. Well, yeah, maybe that happens, but it's so far in the future, it's ridiculous. Like the ascended masters, they're called ascended masters, are still ascending, right? They're still ascending on their path. Oh, sure, they're not on planet Earth anymore, but planet Earth is just such a tiny pinprick of existence in the cosmos. It doesn't really, it doesn't compute to make this Earth experience so important in the scheme of things. So what are the benefits to humanity if I ascend? It's as you're going through the process of ascension, your vibration is elevating, and as your vibration elevates, it radiates out around you and influences everything. So as you engage in the process of ascension, spiritual evolution, we could call it that, right? Because a lot of people put this ascension thing on such a high pedestal and such a mythical sort of thing, but it's basically just spiritual evolution. You're just growing, right? The process of ascension, the energetic process of elevating your operating system, right? We could call that ascension, a spiritual evolution on a very pragmatic, energetic, structural way, right? Chakras are changing, things are changing within the body as you go through a process. That's the process of ascension, right? It's a very mechanical process, very driven by energy. As you go through that, you become more and more effective in radiating your vibration out to the planet. And as you do so, you influence others in what we would call a positive way. We as beings of light would call it a positive way. There are others ascending in a completely different pathway, or you could call it descending, but that's really makes one right and one wrong, which is not right. But dark beings are doing a similar process, but on a completely different pathway. And they're still coming what you might call closer to God. But it's their dark God as opposed to the light God, if you think of the yin and the yang symbol as being God. Anyway, just to keep stimulating that idea that darkness isn't wrong, it's just different. But it's antagonistic to our core, to our light, right? It doesn't feel comfortable for us, and that's why we make it wrong. But as you ascend, you become a little bit more pragmatic with how you deal with darkness, and a lot less judgmental around the whole process. So we know, do we leave those behind to just figure it out? Well, no more than you are left behind to figure it out, right? There are always guides on the pathway, and you will no doubt, everyone tends to, as they are going through the process of ascension, get called into being more influential, whether that's teaching or whether that's showing, right? Way showers, teachers, healers, right? We tend to, it's not that we have to become a healer or we have to become a teacher. You don't, of course. But as you ascend, naturally, you become more influential, and you will help others around you who align with you choose a similar pathway and start ascending as well. You're a catalyst that inspires others energetically as well as consciously to start engaging in that process. So that's a benefit to humanity as you ascend. Why ascend? Why not? Basically, we start ascending when we get bored with the experiences that we were having, right? It's like, why do you leave preschool? It's because you're finished with playing in the sandpit and you're ready to move on to learning numbers, right? Why do you leave kindergarten? It's because you've learnt your numbers now and it's time to start working out how to add them and subtract them, right? We just naturally progress as our capacity for progression arises, right? Because otherwise we get bored doing what we were doing. So that's how ascension basically drives. When you're ready to start moving forward, you go looking for it. You awaken to it. You find your purpose when you are tired of following trivialities. This is not something you have to cognate. It happens naturally. Just nature looks after itself. Okay, the last question from WW. What happens to those who go against their divine plans? There are no divine plans, so you can't go against them. So nothing happens to them. Basically, yeah, as I said at the start, your higher self might have come here with some desires to experience some stuff. And if you, the ego, railroads that, it's no problem for the higher self, because the higher self is not constrained by time. So you'll just have another go. You'll just come back in another lifetime and have another go. You, the higher self, you, the personality, of course, is a manifestation of your higher self, but aspects of it, fall to the ground with your body, but only small aspects of it. So, if the question was, do you get punished or something? No, there is no punishment on this plane. Do you create some karma for yourself, which is basically your own guilt, potentially, or not? Depends on how you feel about it. If you feel that you are wasting your time, then potentially you will create some reaction that you'll have to process in the future, which we call karma. It's basically all self-held. It's not, in my opinion, there's no God that basically goes, oh, that was bad, put a bad point there against their karma. Karma's not like that. Karma is just basically the collection of your own idiosyncrasies, your own energy. Geraldine's out washing the garden, but watering the garden behind me. Who's that behind me? It's my mother-in-law. Anyway, so hopefully that's helped. And as I said at the start, if any of you want more information about all that I just basically spilled out pretty quick, then we can go into that at another time, because I have about 5 minutes or so now to answer Lorraine's question, which was, I've been using light language since I was 16. It was an unexpected gift when I received healing, but it's been prodding me more lately. I feel I want to use it more and more in a more and more focused way for healing, for situations around me, to listen to any messages I'm being sent. Do you have any suggestions of where to start? Thanks, and thank you for adding me to the group. Yeah, so awesome question, Lorraine. And it's very, very common that our gifts, our spiritual gifts, are coming more and more online now, and we are being called, generally, many of us are being called into using our energies in a more focused way, or a more productive, or a more purposeful way. That's probably a better word of saying. Our souls are prodding us to become a little bit more engaged with, and to step through taking the risk of being seen as a light worker on this planet. That's pretty common. And it's, again, I want to take away any desperation measure that we have to right now, or the planet's going to be destroyed and darkness, and this is a pivotal point, and if all of us light workers don't step up, then it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket. Don't fall down that hole, right? Because that level of stress is just going to clamp you shut. So, but the point is, the conditions are becoming ripe right now for us to really express ourselves in more expansive ways. And when that happens, then the soul necessarily, gets more excited, and we feel that inside of ourselves. So we're all getting drawn into, many of us are getting drawn into, I shouldn't say we all, many of us are getting drawn into showing up in a more and more expansive way. So recognizing that first and foremost, and not making it a big fat should, because that will only create stress, which then limits your ability to actually achieve what you feel you want to. Moving into the question, where to start. So first and foremost, the place to start is to relax into allowing yourself to be comfortable to follow your guidance, and to allow your light language to start showing up in your life more and more obviously and effectively, really. To use it for yourself, for your own healing, and to start appreciating it. What we appreciate. So when you really start or continue to appreciate your gifts, this goes beyond just Lorraine's question around light language, any gift, when you start to appreciate your gift more and more, and start to be willing to tell people about it, not everybody, of course, it's important that we don't tell the quote-unquote wrong people who aren't going to appreciate it, because they're likely to stuff it down. Quite often our close family are more concerned about you fitting in the world and don't want you to do anything quote-unquote dangerous, and so they might not be so appreciative of your ability to channel light language, or ability to use crystals, right? So just be mindful of that. At some stage, we always have to come out of the closet and tell people who are closest to us. But to start with, it's generally easier to work with people who will already appreciate those gifts, already have some understanding of those gifts. And for me, it was much easier to work with people who didn't know me at all to start with, because they didn't have a preconceived idea that Matt was a builder, not a healer, right? Matt works in the film industry, Matt's a builder, Matt's got this history that I know all about, and therefore it's very hard for them to accept that Matt is actually a very, high-level spiritual being who can help them heal their stuff, right? So it's much easier to work with strangers, and then to just basically start offering your services to those people beyond what you think you're capable of. You have to be willing to take a risk. You have to be, and this is, I love helping people do this. This is, part of my passion. That's why I have the Bright Light Client Attraction process, to help people who have gifts to step into using them more effectively, and to start attracting people naturally who appreciate the gifts and can benefit from them, so that the process moves forward, and you can start to build a tribe around yourself who appreciates what you do, and that will then give you a greater and greater confidence to show up more and more expansively to help further more and more people, right? You start displaying your stuff out there in the world, right, through social media or whatever other ways of broadcasting what you're choosing to do, so that they can find you. Yeah, exactly. Christina said, I totally agree. Family can place us in a very small box. Yeah, because they know our history, and they're expecting us to keep showing up. People have this weird belief that people don't change. Some people say it all the time. Oh, they'll never change. Oh, they'll never change. People don't change. What a fucking load of rubbish. Everything keeps changing, right? So, It's just interesting. I don't know where that came from. It's probably obviously part of the dark agenda to keep us all small, to keep a huge group of people saying that people don't change, right? To say that we don't change. But people do change, and you're changing. And I guess inherently at the core, we don't really change because we've always been what we be. But the personality and the way it shows up in the world can change dramatically very quickly as we step past our resistance and start expressing ourselves out there. So basically appreciate your gifts first and foremost, Lorraine, and then allow yourself to relax into it. Let go of any desperation that you have to start using your light language more, and allow yourself to feel joyful about using your light language more, and be accepting that you will also feel scared about using your light language more. Please don't wait till the fear goes away before you're willing to step forward, because you will never step forward if you wait for that. We have to be willing to step past our resistance, because our resistance will always be there. So, you know, I know so many people who are just waiting till the time feels right to begin their life as a healer or a facilitator or a coach or whatever, right? They're waiting till it feels easier, and that just doesn't come. Sheena, is it the Jesuit saying, give me the seven-year-old, I'll show you the man? I'm not sure if that's a Jesuit saying, but it's a you know, 7 years is a great age, right? It's that age where the child basically graduates from being an extension of the mother, and really steps into a new level. It's quite a quantum step age of maturation as a soul on the planet. Awesome, Lorraine. I'm glad that helped, and it's actually absolutely my pleasure. So yeah, my friends, that's it. So don't wait till you feel ready. Choose to take a path that feels joyful, and remember, joyful is not happy, party, joy, right? It's what joy to me is basically love expressed, right? So when we're basically expressing the love for ourselves out into action, that's joy. And it's not always comfortable. Joy is not always comfortable. It's expansive, but in that expansive, there's always threads of fear. There's always threads of resistance. There's quite often an overtone or an undertone of discomfort, pain even, as energies that are scared of us stepping into those vibrations, or are trained to believe that we can't or we shouldn't step into those vibrations, are protesting, right? Quite often we're feeling discomfort in our body, discomfort emotionally, our digestive system might be, you know, there's levels of stress involved in working forward into that joy. So don't judge yourself based on if it feels easy or not, right? A lot of people say, oh, if you're on the right path, it should always feel easy. And I agree, there should be a level of ease there and a level of alignment there, but there's always threads of discomfort as well. There's always, you know, if you're not pushing your edge with bouncing up against your resistance, then you're not really on your path, in my opinion. Yeah, you can have moments where you're not pushing your edge, right? But the point is, it's usually there, right? Especially people like us, right? The people who are attracted to this group are generally people who have had a hard past, right? Beings of light who have stood up as beings of light in other lifetimes and have been persecuted for doing so. So we carry some self-worth issues. We carry some trauma in our field. And when we step forward into our path again, into the light again, into it being that expansive expression of self again, we trigger a lot of these old residues of energies, and it doesn't feel comfortable, but it's just what we have to go through. Sheena wrote, I do believe people change when ready. Thank you for today, Matt. I love the way you share your wisdom. Thank you, Sheena. I enjoy the way I share my wisdom too, because I basically just sit here and rave a bit. Christina wrote, I was scared to put my light language out there, Lorraine, but I did it. I'm still scared, but I keep going. It feels good to do it. Exactly. Hey, Sister Stephanie Day, thank you as well. Okay, my friends, that's it. I've got to get to the airport. I'll leave for the airport in about 15 minutes. So much love to you all. I will be back later on this afternoon, back at home and open for business a bit more. So if you're looking for some help, reach out. either book a session or reach out, join my foundational community, the Mantara Empowerment and Support Community. You can find information about that on my website, or reach out here and I'll send you a link to it. You missed my guidance, did you, Jane? Just now, or it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's here. You can watch it back. I don't think I missed a week. I was here last Wednesday. I wasn't here on Saturday. That's true for the transformational group. I wasn't. So in that group I do more live streams and stuff as well. Anywho's, so if you want more of it, just join that group. It's only 33 New Zealand dollars per month. Very, very good value. Anyway, my friends, I shall push on. I'll let you do the same. I will speak to you here again, same time next week. And just to clarify, I do it New Zealand time, 9 a.m. And I know we're just going through time zone changes. America changed last weekend, or that. UK is going to change this weekend coming, and then we're going to change the weekend after. So we've got this, time zones are changing. But I'll just keep showing up New Zealand time, 9 a.m. by and large. Anyway, my friends, much, much love. Speak to you again soon. Bye for now.